As you guys know, Chap is an evil villain who needs to be taken down. If you guys have no idea what this situation is about, it's basically Liquid Chap saying that console players are not going to qualify for the World Cup finals. Here's a clip of that.
I don't know if you don't understand this, but if you're on console, you're not qualifying for Worlds. Get it through your fucking head. Like, holy shit, you're not gonna qualify. When is a console player even placed in a top, like, 100?
No, but for real, guys, I did want to talk about console versus PC, and if a console player can make it into the World Cup. If you guys didn't know what the World Cup is about, well, basically the 100 best players in solos and duos are going to compete in New York City for $30 million in prizes. Well, you guys might be wondering, well, do you have to be a famous streamer or YouTuber to qualify? No, you do not. So starting on April 13th, that is when the qualifiers begin. The semifinals are on April 13th. You have to be in Champions League in order to compete in that. And let's say you get into the top 3,000 solo players in the semifinals, you move on to the finals. The people who score the most points and perform the best from Europe, NA East, NA West, Asia, Brazil, and Oceania will guarantee their spot in the World Cup. The 8 best players in Europe in week 1, which is solo, will guarantee their spot in the World Cup in New York City. Same with 6 NA East players, 2 NA West, 1 Asia, 1 Brazil, and 1 Oceania. There will be 40 European players in the finals. There's going to be 30 NA East players. There's going to be 10 NA West, and then there's going to be 7 Asian and 7 Brazil players and 5 Oceania players. So now that we've broken down how to get into the World Cup, we will be comparing console to PC. I am currently in Champions League and I play PC with a controller, and I will be testing out 2 games in Champions League on PC, and then we're going to play 2 games on console with my controller. We're going to compare how they run, which one runs better, which I think we already know, but how much better? And is it possible for someone on a console to compete in the World Cup or to even qualify for the World Cup? So I ended up playing maybe like 5 or 6 games on PC, and then I played like 5 or 6 games on console. I will be showing the PC gameplay first, and then I'll move on to the Xbox gameplay. I'll make sure to put some text on the screen so you know when it's switching. The funny thing is, I actually won my first game on console, and it felt pretty smooth. The reason why it felt so smooth is because so many people are either in Ballers, or if they're not in Ballers, well, guess what? They're in a 1x1 box, maybe a 2x1 box, and that's it. No one's really overbuilding. There aren't people constantly building like they would be if there was no Ballers in the game. I do believe the reason it felt so smooth on console is because of the Ballers. If there were no Ballers in this game, the game would feel a lot more laggy on console. But since people are either in Ballers, boxed up in a 1x1, maybe they don't even build, and then the rest of the people who do not have Ballers are in a 1x1, maybe a 2x1, or maybe they're way up high, you know, building a little bit extra. But in total, I would say there really aren't too many people building endgame. As the zone starts to rotate, well, then people start to build a little bit more. But honestly, after playing a few games on console, I really didn't notice too many problems. And the sole reason why I didn't experience any problems, or not many problems at the very least, is because people in Ballers aren't going to be shooting at people outside of Ballers. That means people can build less than they would have to if no one had Ballers. So can a console player qualify for the World Cup finals in New York City? But first we have to answer the question, can console players qualify for the semifinals? Well, of course, all you have to do is be in Champions League and you will be in the semifinals. I would predict that about 100 to maybe 300 console players in each region will make it to the finals. That's 100 to 300 out of 3,000 players. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, depending on which region you're in. But honestly, guys, I do believe a decent percentage of console players will be able to make it into the finals. So let's give console players the benefit of the doubt. Let's say, guys, 1,000 console players make it into NA East. Let's say that, okay? Out of 3,000. So the rest, let's say 2,000 are PC. and you know, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 are on either Nintendo Switch or mobile. We'll just say that for, you know, the fun of it. Giving console the benefit of the doubt way too high. I truly believe that 300 is probably the max, but let's say 1,000. Do I believe one of those players can make it into the top 6? Well, that's where we run into a problem, guys, because I do believe there are console players who can make it into the finals, because the semifinals are played differently than the finals. Semifinals, people rush a little bit more. People don't take the games as seriously because anyone can play in them as long as you're in Champions League. And I would say, guys, they're played a lot differently than the finals. That's why those semifinal games are going to be a lot less laggy if you are on console than the final games are going to be. Because in the finals, the best of the best players are going to be competing, the best 3,000 players in each region. So I would say, guys, for the finals, the games are going to be a lot more laggy than the semifinals ever could be. Let's say the semifinal games are just, you know, easy for you. They're cake. You had no lag on console. Well, guess what? Once you get into those final games, those 20 to 30 player end games might turn into 40 to 60 player end games. And then that's where your console starts to lag. So I would say, guys, semifinals, yes, a lot of players on console will be able to compete. Maybe even a console player might be able to get into the top 6 in the semifinal games, but those don't matter. Once you get into the finals, that's when it matters, and I truly believe that the FPS isn't high enough. Console is just not good enough. It doesn't perform high enough to compete with PC players. I definitely think a lot of console players can make money in these tournaments, but there is no way, and I will guarantee it, there is no way a single console player makes it into the World Cup. Because guys, all I know is my console game, it ran smooth. I couldn't get a good scrim lobby game just because, you know, no one's really taking it seriously. There's 80 player games, 20 player end games. But once those finals roll around and people actually know there's money on the line, people will take the games a lot more seriously. And there will be those end games that have 40 to 60 players in them. And then when that happens, guess what? Not only are you facing up against the best players in the world, those best players in the world are gonna have great connection, and they're gonna have higher frames per second. They're not gonna suffer the same problems you have. And I just believe, guys, this will wrap up the video. I truly believe it's somewhat arrogant to think that you as a console player can beat a PC player. So let me tell you the disadvantages of being a console player with a controller against PC player. So the first thing I wanted to go over is keyboard and mouse versus controller. So I would say it's somewhat arrogant to think that you as a controller player can compete with the best of the best keyboard and mouse players. The skill ceiling is so much higher for someone on keyboard and mouse. They can aim better than you, they can build faster than you, they can edit faster than you. Let's say at the end of the day, you're facing people with keyboard and mouse and you have the same skill as them as a controller player. Your console cannot run at the speed and performance as a PC can. Your FPS will be lower than someone who has a PC. Your game will have more packet loss and lag spikes than anyone on PC. Guys, I don't know. It's very arrogant for me to sit here and say that a console player has the chance of making it. That is arrogance. There are 100 players, the top 100 players, top 200 players through 2 weeks. I would say the only way a console player makes it is if he is carried in duos by a PC player. Guys, there's no way. I do agree with Chap. I do feel like he kind of sounded like a douche when he was saying everything, when he said what he said about console players, and I can understand why people are upset, but I'm here to say that if you're on console and you believe you can compete in these tournaments and not only win money, but make it into the World Cup. Be in the top 6 players, be in the top 5 players, be in the top however many players are in your region that make it each week. That is just arrogance. And that's truly what I believe. Tell me what you guys think. I truly believe when the real games come around, not these little baby semi-final games where no one's trying, when the real competition comes out in the finals, these console players will experience high lag, low FPS, very, very low FPS, lag spikes, and just slower gameplay. Like the gameplay just moves in slow motion. I don't have any clips of it, but just trust me guys, if you're a console player, you know what I'm talking about. Regardless, tell me what you guys think. Tell me how stupid and horrible of a person I am for telling you the truth, telling you you are arrogant for even believing this. Trust me, console players cannot compete against PC players. There are controller players who can't compete against PC players, but even then, they cannot be as good. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye, guys.